Have you ever seriously wondered what keeps a person going when they're faced with just unimaginable suffering? Today, we're diving into Viktor Frankl's incredible book, Man's Search for Meaning, which tackles that very question from inside one of the darkest moments in human history. Now, Frankl often pointed to this quote from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. It's really the heartbeat of his whole philosophy. If you have a why, a reason to live, you can endure almost anyhow. And for Frankl, you've got to understand this wasn't just some abstract theory, it was his lifeline.
But that's the real question, isn't it? I mean, it's one thing to talk about finding purpose when you're comfortable, but what happens when you are stripped of absolutely everything? Everything that you thought made you, you. That is the ultimate test. And that's where our story begins.
To find the answer, we have to go with Frankl into the crucible itself, into the Nazi concentration camps, a place he described as the naked existence. You have to realize this was a systematic demolition of the human spirit. From the moment they arrived, everything that gave a person an identity was just torn away. The loss was absolute. His entire family, gone. His possessions, right down to his wedding ring, taken. His life's work, a scientific manuscript he had painstakingly hidden in the lining of his coat, was discovered and destroyed. He was no longer Dr. Viktor Frankl. He was prisoner number 119104. As he put it himself, this was rock bottom. When every single external thing that anchors you to the world is gone, what is left? Nothing, except bare, naked life. As a psychiatrist, Frankl couldn't help but observe the psychological journey. He saw prisoners go through three phases. First, there was shock, often with a strange delusion of reprieve, a sense that somehow it would all be okay. This was followed by a deep, profound apathy, an emotional death that was also a necessary protective shell to survive the daily horrors. And then, for those who made it, came liberation, which surprisingly brought its own deep and difficult challenges. And yet, it was from this very abyss, from this place of total apathy and despair, that Frankl had a revelation, a life-altering discovery about the one thing, the one single thing that could never be taken away. This is it. This is the absolute core of his work. They could take his home, his family, his name, his work. They could control his body and his surroundings. But they could not take away his inner freedom to decide how he would respond. That choice was his and his alone. And he saw living proof of this all around him. He saw men who would walk through the huts, comforting others, giving away their last scrap of bread. They proved that even in the exact same circumstances, who you became was the result of an inner decision, not just the camp's influence. This quote from Dostoevsky came to Frankl's mind and haunted him. It totally reframes the idea of suffering. It's not just a pointless horror anymore. It's a test. Can you bear your suffering with a dignity that gives it meaning? Can the suffering itself become a profound inner achievement? So Frankl didn't just survive this hell. He emerged with a gift for all of humanity. He transformed his experience into a whole new school of psychotherapy, one that's not focused on our past, but on the meaning we can find in our future. He called it logotherapy. So what is logotherapy exactly? Well, before Frankl, you had other thinkers like Freud, who said our primary drive is a will to pleasure. Frankl said, nope, that's not it. There's something deeper. It comes from the Greek word logos, which translates to meaning. And the core idea of logotherapy is that our most basic, fundamental drive as human beings is the search for meaning. He called it the will to meaning. So here's a really simple way to think about the difference. Freudian psychoanalysis often looks backward, right? It's like digging into your past to find the source of your problems. Logotherapy looks forward. It's all about the meaning that you can build in your future starting today. And look, this isn't some dusty idea from the 1940s. A survey of American college students asked them what they considered very important. You see here, making a lot of money, only 16%. But finding a purpose and meaning, a huge 78%. The will to meaning is as powerful as ever. Okay, so this all sounds really profound, but how do we actually do it? How do we find meaning in our own lives? Well, the great thing is, Frankl didn't just leave us with an abstract idea. He laid out 3 very clear, concrete paths we can all walk. All right, here they are. First, you can find meaning by creating a work or doing a deed, your contribution to the world. Second, by experiencing something like the beauty of nature or by truly loving another person. And third, and this is the big one, by the attitude we take towards suffering we simply cannot change. He experienced that second path so powerfully. He describes being on a forced freezing march, and he just started to think about his wife, picturing her face, hearing her voice. And he realized that even in total desolation, you can find a kind of bliss just by contemplating a person you love. It's a connection that transcends anything physical. It's a spiritual anchor. And to explain that third path about unavoidable suffering, he tells this incredible story about an old doctor who was crushed with grief after his wife died. Frankl asked him, "Doctor, what would have happened if you had died first?" The doctor replied, "Oh, it would have been terrible for her. She would have suffered so." And Frankl gently responded, "You see, you have spared her that suffering. And the price you pay is that you have to mourn her." In that moment, the man's suffering was transformed. It wasn't meaningless pain anymore. It was a sacrifice. It had a purpose. So what does all this add up to? Frankl's legacy isn't some naive, feel-good happiness. It's something far more durable, far more powerful. He calls it tragic optimism. Tragic optimism is the ability to say yes to life, even with all its unavoidable pain, guilt, and death. It's the belief that we can find meaning not by trying to avoid suffering, but by transforming how we face it. And for Frankl, this all ties back to freedom. Because freedom is only half the story. As he says here, freedom is just the negative side. The positive side is responsibility. Being free from something is empty unless you're also responsible for something. It's responsibility that gives our freedom purpose. And that leaves us with this final, powerful challenge. Frankl actually suggested that America should build a statue of responsibility on the West Coast as a bookend to the Statue of Liberty on the East. It's such a powerful image. It challenges us to stop asking what we expect from life and to start asking what life expects from us. So what responsibility is life calling you to answer? What meaning is out there waiting for you to fulfill it?